Okay, so video 2, this is the one with the partner work. Um, is it dodgy ground? I mean, I probably think people are alright with working with other people. Obviously, people in the crowd can keep an eye out for pervs that are trying to molest people during the during the silent disco. Um, so what have we got here? So it's going to be difficult for me to demonstrate the partner stuff, but we can always go through this on the day before when we arrive, or I'm happy to teach the first couple if people just want to see things and experience them, in pretend that you're a part of it. So the first one I've got is just like a side stretch with partners. So what you'll basically have is another partner next to you, and you'll both be sort of pressing your hands together. Yeah, so imagine that you've got someone else pressing your hands there. You're keeping your feet where you are, and then you're just reaching over, and as if you're trying to touch their hand, and then back. You're trying to keep that arm straight. So it's just a good way of getting into the sides, which we haven't really done much anymore. Obviously the hips can sway. Try not to sort of get the lower back to arch too much. So just thinking of it, and then you could switch arms, and then go to the other side. Whoops! You could always get them to move around, la la la, that sort of thing. Just getting all the sides warmed up. The other thing I thought of what we could do is some of those spinal rolls. So if you were, this is a fun one because if you're actually back to back with a person, you're going to bump them over with your bum, yeah. So you can start them back to back and then reaching up, and you can get your thumbs to touch, which gives them a little bit of a back bend. And then when you roll down, it's going to be interesting because your bum will knock the other person out of the way. And then you're rolling back up again and touching thumbs. And then you're rolling back down and trying not to touch bums. When you're underneath, some of the stuff I used to do when I did partner yoga, because it's a little bit weird when you got your head between your legs and you can see somebody else, is you can wave to them, you could pull a funny face, you could say hello, all of that sort of stuff, making it a bit more fun and playful. Twist and side. Okay, so then that would be one person would remain still. And they would just sort of be like almost like the pole, like a maypole, I guess we could call this. So their hand would be up here, maybe. The other person would be you try and keep your hand interlaced. And then what you've got to try and do is go as far around as possible without sort of letting go of their hand. And then you go back the other way. Just sort of also sort of trying to think of how the body can move to create circles. And obviously you could do one, the other person could then do one. It will end up with people just sort of doing weird spirally things anyway, which is again, just go with it, go with what's happening. This one I'm not sure, I've put head to head circle. I think hand to head would be better, so it's a similar sort of thing about getting people a bit disorientated. But what I thought would be interesting if somebody had their hands sort of here and then somebody else had their head against the hand, and then they're trying to find a way to move all the way around, little baby steps with their hands sort of putting a bit of, not too much pressure, but just sort of holding the head so they've got something to press against, which also helps with the neck and the chin. I'm not sure, depending on how friendly the group is, but you could also do it with your crown of your heads together, and then you'd be rolling around your head that way, trying to keep your head connected, but again, depends upon flexibility and how dizzy you would feel after that, yeah? So then we could just get people just to sort of start moving and dancing and blah, blah, blah. And then just see what happens if people are working in pairs. Say like if someone is trying to move and then the other person puts a hand on their shoulder and just applies a little bit of pressure, how would that affect how the rest of the body moves? And can it still, the rest of the body move whilst that is sort of remaining still? You could do the same thing with a hand on the hip, like how can I get the body to move? It's just bringing awareness to a different part of the body. So you could have head, shoulders, the arm, the rib maybe, avoiding chest obviously, hips, up to you. Like sometimes just a hand on the hip is alright. Thigh, is that too intimate? I don't know. What happens if somebody holds your foot down? How do you dance with one foot stuck to the floor? And just sort of asking them to explore how does the movement change. You can swap over, that sort of thing. Next one, 17, one person dances high up, the other one dances low down. I've got these things where I quite like it, where we can just sort of shout and change or switch or whatever. So you could be working in twos, when one person is dancing up in towards the air and the other one's still dancing down towards the floor. And then when we say switch, then you swap over, so the one that's dancing low down dances up and the other one dances down. Yeah, so it's just sort of getting them to think about the space above and below. Guess you could also think about one person dancing to the right and the other person dancing to the left or something, or one person dancing to the front, the other one dancing to the back. And then you could go switch and just sort of getting them to think about space around them. Whilst we're doing all this partner stuff as well, you could keep them with the same person, or sort of after they've done, you know, one up, one down, one up, one down, then you could say, actually now we're going to switch partners, so then you swap to another partner and do the same thing up and down, and you know, there's loads of stuff for you to play with there as well. Then we're on the third page. Ah, lovely one. I love this one. So it's kind of like a game of catch with an energy ball. So what you do is you imagine somebody's got this amazing energy ball and they're dancing with it, and then they would throw that towards the other person. The other person would then catch the energy ball. It's kind of like then you're going to push the energy ball inside you and absorb all that energy, and then you pull it back out and then you throw it back to the other person, and then they hold the energy ball and they push it through their body and get this energy all around their body. You can imagine it's light or a colour or something. You can even sort of add a power to it, like it could be the magic happiness ball or something, that you're sort of bringing happiness all to your body, and then you chuck it to the other person. That could then be a link to a group activity, so you could sort of do that in fours or threes even, or fives. You know, one person has the ball, then they chuck it to another person, they have it, they kind of dance with it, maybe move it through them, then chuck it to another person, they have it. You know, you could have two balls going across the circle at the same time, just to sort of start confusing people and getting them to move a bit more. Which then takes us to the group activities. So the one we've got like in a small group, the first one, number 19, I call it sort of like a yoga vogue. You just have a little group of 4 or more if you wanted to, and they can have a little circle. You could do this with a bigger group, I guess. Everyone's just sort of moving around a little bit in the circle, and then somebody goes into the circle and they choose just like a repetitive movement. So it could be just something simple, you know, going out to the diagonals, and then once they've done that, everyone else copies. Yeah, you'll find that people will try and do fancy stuff, you know, they might do leg movement as well, but it's just getting people to think about, I think, more creatively, stepping into the centre, which is stepping into sort of like a vulnerable place of power, where you sort of own your power. Don't have to say that, this is what we're doing. And then everyone would copy. Once everyone's copied and we've given them sort of, we can either say switch, or you could get them to high five another person and jump in. That's that one idea. Also got down number 20, sort of the yoga conga, which is very similar, but this time we'd have a big line of people, say about 6 or 8. They don't even have to touch, they can just sort of dance around the room in a big chain. And then the person at the front again finds a movement. So it could be just a simple arm raise or whatever, and then everyone behind copies as they move around the space. This one, they did say that we're welcome to go and move into the rest of the festival. So if it wasn't too busy, obviously if it's crowded we can't do that, but if it's not too busy, then we could sort of travel around the festival doing our sort of yoga conga thing. And then we can either say switch or sort of give it 20 seconds or something. Person at the front runs around to the back of the chain, and then obviously the person at the front will find a new movement for everyone to copy as they go around the conga. Musical statues. So we sort of spoke about that on the WhatsApp group. What I thought would be really interesting, similar to what sometimes happens in the 5 Rhythms class, is that we could all be dancing, and if somebody stops, when you notice someone stopped, you have to stop as well. So it's kind of like a ripple effect. And then when everyone stopped, then somebody will start moving, doesn't matter who, and then everyone starts dancing again, you know, just to see who's aware of the space around them or if they're in their own world, and then somebody will stop, and then everyone will stop, and it sort of have a ripple effect, and then somebody will start again, and then they'll start dancing. You know, so just another way of playing around with that sort of musical statues. Think it will be easier than trying to stop the music and start it again if we're all sort of running around and moving around. Musical yoga chairs. We spoke about like musical chairs, which was a really good idea. But in musical yoga chairs, usually there's a chair missing. So what I thought would be interesting is rather than musical chairs, we could just call out any shape. So everyone's dancing, and then we call out, say, a tree, and everyone has to sort of make a tree shape. You know, it could be a yoga shape. Doesn't matter. People will find their own tree shape. It doesn't have to be prescriptive. And then we'll sort of go and then dance, and sort of, you know, rather than the music starting, they're just dancing. And then you could say like a square. So then people will be like, how on earth do I make a square? You know, so they're trying to think, how does my body make a square? And then give them a few moments to do that and then change. We could just start adding random things in to make it more fun as well. I put like a flamingo, a pineapple. How do you make a pineapple with your body? How do you make like a star shape with your body? Could you make a little ball with your body? You know, we can just be really creative there and just seeing what people come up with. And then I've got another one that I just thought up called You're Amazing, where we just make a circle. Again, it could be a big circle or it could be smaller circles, and then one person goes into the middle and just dances. And then what I thought would be lovely is that we somehow as a circle appreciate how amazing that person is and how they move. Don't know how we do this, you know, we could just be like going, whoa, whoa, and then waving our fingers. Or it could just be sending positive thoughts, actions to the person in the middle, just thinking how amazing they are for standing in the middle and dancing and moving and being able to be that amazing and that open and that blah, 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 yeah? Like they're the most amazing person ever we've seen. So we sort of worship them in the middle, and then obviously they will step out, somebody else will step in, and then everyone else is just like, wow, aren't they amazing? Winding down. I struggled with this. It's really interesting. How do we wind down? Because I'm not sure that people are going to be wanting to be on the floor or not. I'm not sure if we've got mats, so we'll have to play that by ear. The easiest thing I thought of was just to sort of go backwards to how we started. So we could just sort of go back to just shaking the body, you know, getting people just to sort of calm down, notice the breath, bounce the body again, and then maybe just slowing it down. Again, this could be over like a minute or two, 3 or 4 minutes. Other ones then just hanging forward. Obviously we know that's very restorative. Hanging forward, just sort of draping there. Child pose or curling into a ball. Could be, if people are happy to go to the floor, they could just curl up in a ball. Child pose, people might not know yoga. That's what I'm thinking. So, you know, just sort of curling up nice and small into a ball is a sort of different way of explaining child pose. And then I've just sort of thought about ways in which we can extend the exhalation, which we know are very calming. So we could encourage them to take big sighs and take a deep breath in and just sighing it all back out. We could get people to make sound, you know, they could go as they move down. Could get them to count their exhalation. I wouldn't bother with inhale and exhale through the nose, to be honest, as they're going to be sort of quite exhilarated and thinking about different ways of moving. They're probably not going to be wanting to think about their breath. You could get them, but make a few relaxing, collapsing poses on the floor. Notice your breath, everything pulsing and tingling. So you could just ask them, you know, like, how do they feel that they want to relax? Do they want to sit on the floor? Do they want to squat down? How are they going to, what shapes help them to calm down? Help them to sort of ground, help them just to feel. And obviously they're going to have this, everything's going to be buzzing inside, they're going to be all excitement, and hopefully we can start to calm the music down a little bit as well, just to sort of get them winding down a bit. I've put Shavasana, you know, do we want people to lie on the floor? It's been quite vulnerable in the middle of a festival, just be lying on the floor with everyone else looking at them. So it might be that, you know, we could get them to lie face down with their forehead on the back of their hands, just to connect to the ground again. I'm happy for you just to come up with your ideas. How do we sort of calm everything down? And I think that's about it. Yeah, so that video in itself was, we did 20 minutes for the first one, this is 15 minutes, so that's 35 minutes. We've only got 45 minutes to do. You're not going to want to do all of that. I would just sort of select a few. You could, you know, just do a pick and mix, add a few, make some up of your own, do that sort of thing. Hopefully this helps. I know it's probably rabbled and fast, but hopefully you get an idea. Any questions, just sort of give me a call, or we can discuss stuff on the WhatsApp group. All right, thank you.